Hi everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Today I'm talking about green pea shoots, and I'm going to show you how to grow these from start to finish. First thing you want to do is find something to sprout them in. I prefer something that is not see-through, because when you have water continually in something that is see-through, you might have algae develop, and you don't want that. This is small, yes. You can use something much larger than this. This is just an old to-go container that I used to pack lunches in for my husband. Now you want to get some whole dried peas. This will not work with split peas, okay? And I'm just going to pour some in the container so that I can get a rough idea of how much this container is going to hold. You don't want to jam pack it, because these things will swell up as they soak, and they're going to fill this container. That might actually almost be just a little bit too much. And yes, I have sprouting peas. You can use sprouting peas. You can find whole dried peas at the supermarket. They will also sprout. However, they may not have as great a germination rate as bona fide sprouting seeds, because the companies that sell the sprouting seeds test them for germination, and they will ensure a certain percentage of germination, whereas the peas that you find in the store should germinate, but maybe not at the same rate. Now, there is one here that is split. That will not germinate, so I'm going to take that out right away. And here's another little piece of one. That is not going to germinate. There's another. So you want to sort through them and remove any little pieces. You need the whole seed in order for them to germinate. All right, these all appear to be whole. So now we're going to go to the sink and we're going to rinse them and get ready to soak them. Alright, so we are at the sink and we want to soak these peas. I'm just going to transfer them into a mason jar that I have a sprouting lid to go with. I'm just going to put some water in here, put the lid on, swirl it around a little bit, drain the water, and then I'm going to add fresh water to the jar. Plenty of it, and you can actually drain it again just to be on the safe side. Now I'm going to add plenty of water to this, enough so that they have room to expand. You want to cover them well with at least a couple inches or so. And now I'm just going to allow this to sit on my kitchen counter for 6 to 8 hours or so, and then I'll get back with you and I will walk you through the process on how to grow some pea microgreens. We are still on day 1, and our peas have soaked between 7 and 8 hours, which I think is going to be fine. I'm going to drain this water off, and then I'm just going to give them one more quick rinse and then allow that to drain. Okay, so now we have our tray. We want 3 layers of paper towels. That's all I'm using. Now this is just one paper towel, but because this tray is so small, I've got it folded into thirds, and it fits in the bottom really well. So now I've got a spray bottle with just some water in it, and I'm just spraying it to get it good and moist. It doesn't need to be sopping wet, no, but we want it moist because it's going to have to sit overnight. This is late in the day on day 1, so we want that to be good and moist for starters. And I just found a split pea, which we know won't germinate, so I'm removing that. Alright, now I'm just going to pour these peas. And these few that stuck to the glass are split. They're not going to germinate, so I'm not going to worry about those. And I see a few little pieces of the outer skin that's fallen off. We can remove those. Remember, I said not to overload it and that they would swell, and you can see that I have more than enough to fill this. Really, I could almost divide this between 2 containers. Anyway, I'm going to see how we go like this. It's a little crowded in there. You really they're really best off if you've got them more like single layers. And now I know I drained them a little bit, but I'm going to wet them again. Just spray them a little bit. Having a spray bottle is really helpful. And now they're good and moist. I'm going to cover them up. Biggest reason for covering them up is so I can preserve that humidity in there. And I'm just going to let them sit on the counter for overnight. And then in the morning, we're going to mist them again and keep them covered up. And I'm going to be misting them 3 times a day until they start to germinate. And then we'll put them in a brightly lit location. I have my grow lights. And if you don't have grow lights, that's fine. Put them in a sunny window. But you don't need to worry about that right now. We want to preserve the humidity in there and give them an opportunity to germinate. So that's it for day 1. They're just going to sit like this on the counter. It's the morning of day 2, and we're taking the lid off. And what we're going to do is spritz them really well. We can see they did get a little bit dried out overnight. And the goal here is to not allow these seeds to dry. We want them to be moist but not saturated in water. So I'm just moistening them really well. And then I'm just going to cover them back up, and you can cover them with anything you want. It could be a clear lid that came with this. It could be this dark. It could be a plate over top of it. My purpose in the lid is not light as much as it is keeping moisture within this container. Good morning, everybody. It is the morning of day 3. And you see we've got tails forming. We also have peas that have expanded so much. I think it's way too many for this one container. So I've decided to take what I was using as the lid and divide these things up, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. So I've got another paper towel here that I have folded into thirds, just simply so it would fit in here. And I'm going to wet this down and just divide these up and make 2 trays out of them because they're so crowded. Once they start to grow, I think it's just going to be too congested in there. I really should have done this yesterday, but I was questioning whether or not to do it yesterday, and then it's one of those things you think about overnight. So, okay, this is good. They've got the tails, you can see, but they haven't taken hold yet in the paper towels, so I'm going to make them all confused here on their environment. So now you can see there is a good bit of moisture in there, but I'm still going to keep them on the moist side. And here's our new tray. Now these things have got to be able to have a little bit of time to themselves to get those roots going down. And I'm putting this lid, which is the regular lid for the container, on there just to help keep the moisture in there. I'm not worried about the light bit of keeping them in the dark. I'm not putting these under the lights. I'm just going to put them out of the way on my kitchen counter, and they're not going to be in under any direct light in any way. But I want to just preserve that moisture. So I'm going to leave them like this, and I'll check on them throughout the day, and if they tend to dry up, I'm going to spritz them out some more. You do not want them to get dry. You just want to keep them moist. It's day 4, and we have some wonderful roots growing there, and we have little bits of pea shoots that are starting to come up. So what I'm going to do now is remove the lids. I'm going to keep the lids off of them. I'm going to continue to monitor them 2 to 3 times a day, spritz them as needed to keep them moist, but definitely not swimming in water. This is day 8, and you can see that our pea shoots are growing up very well and that the roots are getting really tangled in there well. So this is a good thing. So I'm going to change how I actually water it. Rather than just using a spritzer bottle, I'm going to just run some water in this at the sink here and allow that to disperse around the bottom and wet the paper towel and wet the roots some. And then allow it to drain, just like this. And now I'll put these back under my grow lights, and I will monitor them 2 to 3 times a day to make sure that they're still moist but not swimming in water. And again, we just keep up this routine until they get nice and big. We're on day 11 of our pea shoots. And you see we've got some tendrils growing up in here, and this is wonderful. You could harvest them right like this if you want to. I want them to get bigger. And if you really look, you'll see that there are some peas that are very slow to develop, and they're just starting to develop their greenery. So I want to keep this going and allow those others to really get started. So we're going to water it just like we did before. I'm just going to run some water in here and allow it to flow back and forth. I'm not so worried about things falling out now because the roots have grown and everything is getting pretty well established, where it's kind of forming a little mat down there with the paper towel. And I can just drain it off. And I'm doing this now generally twice a day. We are on day 15, and I think they're big enough now that we can go ahead and harvest them. This one I think is a rogue pea plant of a different type. I may not bother with this. It's totally different. It doesn't have tendrils like the other ones do. But I want you to stay with me. I'm going to show you how we're going to harvest it, and we're also going to do a second video on a regrowth because these will regrow. So I'm going to start with this tray here, and you can see they're pretty tall. And the reason why I want to do a regrowth is there are a lot of peas that are slow to grow, and you probably can't see them way down in there, but there is some new growth down there that has started from peas that are slow to grow. And those will continue to grow. Now, to harvest this, you can do it 2 ways. I can actually take this out, and I want you to see the mat that has established from the roots in with the paper towel. Okay. Now we've got some peas that have fallen out, and like here's an example of one that is just barely starting to grow. So we're going to put that back in there. And these others may or may not grow. Some of those will not. This one might. So all I'm going to do is take some kitchen shears and hold the pea shoots and just give them a snip. And put them in a container, and then they're going to go in the refrigerator. I've got a little dry cloth down at the bottom of it. You don't have to have that. You could put a paper towel down there or nothing. I just like to do that to help absorb any extra moisture. But anyway, this is our harvest. I'm just cutting down just indiscriminately, however far. You can cut them down lower, or you can cut them higher. I've done both, and they will regrow. And the new peas that have been slow to grow will continue to grow. Now, these have not been watered yet. I'm going to take them to the sink and run water on them just like I have in the past. They're going to be watered twice a day, and we'll be monitoring their regrowth. These, I'm going to put the lid on them. They're going to go in the refrigerator, and we're going to enjoy them with our salad. Let me encourage you to give this a try sometime. It's really not hard to grow pea microgreens. And stay tuned because I'm going to show you how they will regrow so that we can get another harvest out of them. So there will be a part 2 video in this that I do want you to watch because you get a lot of mileage out of those peas. Well, I do hope this helps. This is Judi at Judi in the Kitchen. Bye for now.